Okay, and that's pretty much it for the character menu. Now, let's go into the main screen, which is the map here. As you can see, there's kind of a text box at the bottom that kind of shows the events that pop up. Events also pop up in Windows, but the unimportant events that we don't really care about are down here, like people getting more titles and, uh, declaring war on other people that we don't really care about. Um, oh, I also forgot to mention that we are allied with the King of England, which is really good because the King of England is really powerful. William the Conqueror, who obviously is the historical, King of England at this point. Um, and I like the fact that they actually made him a bastard. It's just a nice touch. It doesn't really affect anything, but the fact that he's a bastard is just that's cool. He's also really, really good. It's kind of unlikely that we'll get a leader this good in the near future, but it's possible. Um, yeah, as you can see, we can kind of see like a bit of terrain here. But one of the things we want to do is we want to adjust these filters, which are down here. This is the terrain map. It's kind of hard to see, and it's not that useful. Uh, so, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in this. Next to that is the relational map. You hit W, and it switches to that. And this kind of shows how we relate to other people. This is our personal province in the dark green. Our vassals are in this lighter green. Our claims are in this yellow, and I believe enemy provinces will be in red. I'm not sure. I'll kind of check that later. And then the blue is the personal domain of our allies, the King of England. When we select France, we can see that there's also another option, which is the another color rather, which is the lighter green than the light green, which is the vassals of your vassals. So, yeah. Um, So as you can see, we have claims on these two people, but these are controlled by our ally, the King of England, so we're probably not going to be taking advantage of those pretty soon. More on claims and stuff later. I can hit E, or click on this, bring up the economic map. As you can see from this, it's just a blur of green. It just kind of shows that, this is 3.6, and, this is 1.8, so this one's lighter than this one. But it's just kind of hard to tell. In the original Crusader Kings, it was green to red. It was a lot easier to see, but this one's kind of useless. I'll probably never be using this screen. Next is the regional map, which you use with R. And this is probably the most useful and the one I will spend 99% of the game in. As you can see, these are our provinces, the gray. And then England is orange, and then France is blue. So it's kind of clear cut and easy to see who controls what in this kind of thing. Now, it doesn't always, because sometimes people will have the same color and be next to each other. So, yeah. Next is the religious menu. As you can see, it's all white here because we are all Catholics. In this game, it's basically Catholicism versus the other religions, which is green, which is the Muslims, and are probably going to be our main adversary in this game, running a crusading game. They're also, mostly in northern and eastern Europe, there are the pagans, who are gray. And in Eastern Europe and in Byzantium, there are the Orthodox Christians, who are not necessarily our enemies, but they are not necessarily our friends either. We do have to have claims to declare war on them, but we don't have as high a relations boost with them, and they don't really follow the normal papal kind of directives and stuff. So we don't really have to worry about them as much. Right here is a kind of a minor religion that kind of disappears quickly, unfortunately, because it would be nice to have uh, more kind of diversity, which are the Jews. And they only control one province, and there are actually events that pop up with the Jews, but they mostly just kind of affect the burghers in your kingdom, which I'll get into later. This is the only province controlled by a Jewish leader, which has the Jewish majority. And most of the time, unfortunately, they disappear because of the aggression of the other people in the area. The pagans and the the Orthodox Christians in particular normally go after these people. Well, it's realistic that there aren't really that many controlled provinces by Jews. It is kind of makes it less diverse, which is bad. But as I said, we're going to be mostly focusing on Christianity and Islam from the standpoint of crusading. Orthodox and Catholic, because we'll both be fighting over the same kind of things. Oh no, when I say crusading, I'm pretty much going to ignore Spain for setting up a Crusader kingdom, because it's just kind of, it's kind of a cop out. We start really close to them, and it's not that hard to set up a big kingdom in Spain. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it isn't. And when they do crusades on Spain, pretty much everybody just dogpiles it and they get torn up. Mostly what I'm looking for is something in the Middle East or North Africa to do. So, not really going after the traditional Christian areas as far as where we want to set up our Crusader kingdom, but we'll just kind of play it by ear as far as that goes. Anyway, those are our map kind of filters. Right below the map filters are the screen toggles we can use for the main menu. We can toggle off the shield, which is useful for seeing names and fortresses, and sometimes entire provinces. Like here in the Baltic, the shield covers the entire island for the province. If we toggle off military units, it brings the fog of war off, but we can't see military units. It's not really that useful, but sometimes you'd want to see it without the fog of war. The toggle forts on and off is really only useful for seeing the name of provinces. I'll almost never do it because you can just mouse over the province and kind of see. Okay, moving on to that, if you mouse over a province and hover over it, you can see the info about it, and the names or parentheses are the duchy associated with it and the kingdom associated with it, respectively, Breton March and Brittany. The Kingdom of Brittany is something that we can actually form now if we had enough money, but we can't yet. We're going to be focusing on economy a bit at the beginning, so that's probably not going to happen, and we might save it for our heir. Below that, it says owned by the Duchy of Brittany, which is us. If you mouse over something that, for instance, doesn't have a shield, we can see that it's owned by the county of Cornelier, or whatever it's called. Cornelier, I don't know. Owned by these people. So, yeah. It's useful for, the ones that are not having a... I'm going to switch back to this. It's useful for seeing the ones that have no shield to see who owns it. Like this, we could say, oh, that's owned by England, and this is owned by the Duchy of Aquitaine. So yeah, let's go over this context menu a bit, at least for the provinces. As you can see here, this is kind of a picture of our province, and the conditions within the province. Right here is where our fort is, and if we click on it, we can kind of bring up what kind of things we can build. Right now we have 5 options: the royal post, the training grounds, the court of justice, the fishing wharf, and the forestry. The reason we have the forestry is because we are in a forested area. The reason we have a fishing wharf is because we are on the ocean, and the reason why we have these 3 is because everybody starts with those. And we start with a hill fort as our fortifications, and yeah. Right here is our province's unit that it can spawn. If we click on it, he pops up on the map, and we can look at him, but we don't want him because he costs money right now. And he goes back in if we disband him. Right here, I'll just kind of do it right now. If we click on the forestry and build one, it pops up here. If we hover over it, we can click to cancel it, and it shows how much time is left before it's constructed. I picked the forestry because it gives a bonus to build time for other buildings. And for focusing on economy, it's a great building to build because of 5% gold, which is pretty much the best you're going to get at this point in the game. Below this is our demographic kind of power sliders and loyalty. The peasants, the burghers, the clergy, and the nobility. We're probably going to spend most of the game either in royal prerogative or in feudal contract. So the nobility is pretty much going to be who we're going to get events for most of the time. Or because of the way the sliders are, we're actually going to focus on the clergy and nobility because the clergy gives more money and more troops, and nobility gives more knights in comparison to the other people. Knights are the best unit in the game. As you can see, we don't have any right now. So what we're going to do is kind of move these crosses here. These crosses all represent 20% of the power. As you can see, our peasants now control 40%. And we want these two to be about 30%. So and we want these two to be about 20%. Okay, that's pretty good. As you can see, as we did that, these little hearts went away. This is the loyalty level. So, the more hearts is like, again, 20% of the loyalty. As you can see, this is down to 70%, and it's rounded. The way you have to do it is kind of annoying because you have to click on the pluses, and there's not like a slider you can choose from. Below this is the kind of economic portion. It shows how much income you get in money or gold, piety, and prestige. Piety and prestige you'll get from specific buildings, religious buildings, palaces, that sort of thing. And money you'll get from pretty much every building, either a bonus or a penalty. So yeah, below that income thing is the plunder, how much plunder you get for looting the province. You could pillage here, and the province will get the looted effect, which is bad. And we're not going to do it to our own provinces. And this is how much gold we would get for doing that. We won't lose any piety right now, which is strange, and we won't gain anything. So yeah. Below this is our kind of demographics of the province. Religion is Catholic. We're Catholic. That's cool. The culture is French. Now we are not French. We are a Breton. So this will either cause problems for us. It won't because we're directly controlling the province. There's a chance of revolt because they are a different culture than us. But most likely, what will happen is that it will change to Breton because we are a Breton and and we are the sovereign of the Breton group. So with those conditions the way they are, because we are directly controlling this, we can change the culture to Breton. Well, this is the terrain. Forest is like the second best one. Plains have a better supply kind of thing, which means you get more troops. But forests can build lumber mills, which is just as good because it gives you a better bonus as far as that goes. I believe you can actually build lumber mills on some plains. I'm not sure. I think you can on mountains. Anyway, this shows the fortification we have. It's kind of redundant because we can see it up here, but it does show the effects if we mouse over it, and down here it doesn't do anything, so it's kind of stupid. So the supply limit I just kind of ignore because it doesn't seem to really actually reflect what the supply limit is for your soldiers. Yeah, and below here we don't have anything here, but and there isn't really any of our provinces. But this is the effects that the province has. If it's rich, it'll have a little exclamation point here, or green exclamation point. If it's poor, it'll have a different one. If we got the plague, it'll show up there. If we're looted, it'll show up there. Different things. I'll kind of go into them as we kind of see them. Okay, below here's the mini-map. Oddly enough, the brown is water, and the blue is land. Go figure, whatever.